In this video, we're going to go over the play and record mode of acquisition. Play and record plays stimuli from previous stimulus steps and simultaneously records signals. Let's open SoundCheck and take a look at the play and record step in a sequence. When I first drag it in, it will prompt to select an input signal path. This will be the record signal path. I'll select reference mic here and hit OK. It then asks what the output signal path is. I'll choose source speaker. Now let's open the step and take a look at it. At the top is where you can select the mode. Cancel will close the step without saving any of your changes. OK will close the step, saving your changes. Save As will save this exact configuration as a step template. If we name this acquisition example, we can see it's added to the step template library and the name of our step changes. Revert undoes any changes that were made to the step since the last time it was saved. So I'll just bump this number up to 4.1, click Revert, and it goes back to 100 milliseconds. Load will open a step template. Once it's loaded, I'll click Revert to go back to play and record. Apply will run the acquisition step. Now let's take a look at the record padding. Record padding is additional recording time added for any amount of delay in the test system. It's necessary to compensate for time of flight or inherent delay in the signal chain. By default, it's set at 100 milliseconds. Let's take a look at what would happen if we had no record padding. My sequence is going to run a sweep and then calculate the fundamental. We can see here at a little over 4K it completely falls off a cliff. With no record delay, it will record for only the exact amount of length of the stimulus. I'm sweeping from low to high, and if we zoom in at the end of the signal, we can see it's completely cut off. If you look at the beginning of the waveform, you can see a little bit of silence. With 0 seconds record padding, we're not able to compensate for that small silence at the beginning of the signal. Now if we change this back to the default 100 milliseconds and run the sequence again, the waveform still has a little bit of silence at the beginning, but now it's recording the full length at the tail. This allows the fundamental to be correctly calculated, and we're getting the full range of our sweep recorded. Depending on your application, you might need to adjust the record padding to make sure you're capturing all of your signal. This input signal path button brings up the same dialog as when we first added the step to the sequence. We can use Control or Shift click to add multiple items, or click with no modifiers to add only one. The same can be done for the output signal path. In this sequence, I've added 3 different stimulus steps: pink noise, multitone, and a sweep. So I could output 3 different stimuli to 3 different signal paths and record all of them on 3 different inputs. One thing to note when using multiple signal paths for recording is this Use Signal Path Name checkbox. If I apply and run the step now, we're only getting 1 item in the memory list, even though we're recording on 3 channels. If we check this box and run the step again, we now get a recorded time waveform appended with the signal path to help us keep track of them. We can also change the base name here. So instead of recorded time waveform, I'll shorten it to RTW. On the input signal path side, we have a column called the auto range. To explain this, let's first talk about FSD. FSD is full scale deflection. The values tab of the memory list produces a max FSD for each input. A general rule of thumb is anything lower than -30 dB potentially has too low of a signal-to-noise ratio for accurate harmonic analysis, and everything over 0 dB will be clipping. So if we look at these 3 values of our inputs, they're all below the -30 dB mark. Auto range is a function that will change the input gain of your audio interface if your FSD is too low or too high. This can only be used on listen hardware with adjustable input gain, and when you're using auto read and calibration. As you can see, only reference mic is set to off, but impedance box and ear sim are not available. We'll take a quick look at calibration to see why. So here's my reference mic input channel. We can see it's using Amp Connect, which is a listen device with adjustable input gain, and auto read is checked on. It's reading the gain from the device, which is at minus 20 dB. The impedance box signal path is also using the Amp Connect, but auto read is not checked on. And earsim left is not using listen hardware, so that's not available either. For this example, we'll just use reference mic and source speaker and remove the other two channels. We'll click on auto range, turn it on, and run the sequence again. The acquisition will run once, SoundCheck will calculate the FSD value, and if it's too low or too high, it will adjust the input gain and then rerun the acquisition step. So here you can see our FSD is increased to minus 17, which is within our minus 30 to 0 dB range. Our input gain was changed from minus 20 to plus 40 to give us this value.